What's up, my comic comrades? Today we cover the Ghost Rider versus Galactus one-shot. That's right, the Spirit of Vengeance is going up against the Devourer of Worlds. And let me tell you, it's a really fun issue and one that gets into the meaning of Galactus, but I'm about to break it all down, so let's jump into it. The issue starts off in New York City in the late 70s, where we see the Thing has stopped a murder suspect saying, "Look, pal, I don't want to have to hurt you, because I'm meeting my sweetie for dinner in 2 hours, and I don't want to be late because I had to fill out all the paperwork explaining why I had to yank somebody's arms off. Again, in a different part of town than last time." The man pointing the gun at the Thing says, "Stand back or I'll shoot." The Thing replies, "You know what that pea shooter is gonna do to me? Nothing at all." But the guy says, "You've got the wrong man." The Thing then shows the man a wanted for murder poster with the man's face on it saying, "Is this your face?" The guy says, "Maybe." The Thing then points to the wanted poster saying, "You killed 5 guys, and the part that gets me is you didn't even do it for power or glory. You did it to take the top guy's job as head of human resources at an accounting firm." The man puts his head down while saying, "It was a really nice office, and who are you to judge me?" A voice then says, "He's not judging you, I am." As we see Ghost Rider appear with someone from a nearby building yelling, "Yo, Vinny, it's Ghost Rider, come to the window or you're gonna miss the whole thing." Ghost Rider then gets off his bike saying, "I am your judge, I am your jury, I am your..." The guy then interrupts from the window and continues yelling saying, "I said it's Ghost Rider, get to the freaking window before he..." Ghost Rider then looks up saying, "Shut up, I'm working here." The man Daniel says, "See, you pissed him off." Ghost Rider then cracks his knuckles saying, "Now, where was I? Oh yes, jury and executioner. Let your guilt over your crimes condemn you. Face now the lethal fire of the Penance Stare." The Penance Stare then melts the man as he starts bubbling into flames before he disappears. The Thing then tells Ghost Rider, "I almost had him. Why did you do that?" Ghost Rider replies, "I did nothing. The knowledge of his crimes came back to enact vengeance for his actions." The Thing then yells and goes right to saying, "Do you got a union card for that kind of thing?" Ghost Rider then walks away saying, "My work here is done." But the Thing tells him, "Hang on a second, Johnny. Listen, I gotta go pick up a suit for a date with Alicia tonight. You wanna come with? Maybe get a coffee?" Ghost Rider is reluctant at first, but the Thing persuades him as Thing gets on Rider's motorcycle and they head to pick the Thing's suit up. At the suit fitting, the Thing says, "Listen, what I wanted to talk to you about is the Penance Stare thing. Does it work on everybody who's killed people?" Johnny replies, "As far as I know, Ben, yeah." The Thing continues, "Could somebody use, say, science to stop it from working?" Johnny tells him, "No. It's supernatural hellfire. It can't be stopped by anything that isn't equally supernatural. Why?" The Thing answers, "I was just wondering if it'd work on," as he whispers into Johnny's ear with Johnny's face looking shocked. Johnny then says, "Are you kidding me?" The Thing says, "Ever see a brick wall with eyes kidding somebody?" Johnny tells him no, with the Thing being like, "There you go." The Thing then continues to tell Johnny the big guy has spent centuries destroying whole worlds to feed his hunger. How many people has he killed in the process? Trillions? I don't think even Reed could figure out that number. Every time we've gotten in a fight with him, he's walked away in one piece. Maybe that's because we fought science with science. Maybe what you got, he can't fight. Maybe finally he can be brought to justice." The Thing then gets called to try on the rest of his suit, and as he walks out, he says, "Think about it, Johnny." Johnny replies, "But he's in space. How would I even get to him?" Thing tells him, "I'm sure you'll figure it out." We then get a funny moment of the man who works at the suit store telling Johnny, "The casual section is in the back of the store, but perhaps the sporting goods store next door might better serve your taste." Johnny then turns into Ghost Rider getting pissed as the man says, "Would you like a water while you wait?" Johnny says, "Sure, thanks." The comic then takes us 2 days later, where Johnny has made his way to Cape Canaveral, Florida, where the Saturn V moon rocket is about to launch. And this is how Johnny plans to get to space. He attaches himself and his bike to the top of the Saturn V rocket right before it launches, and when it launches, he uses his Ghost Rider abilities to kick the rocket into high gear, as he calls it. We're then taken somewhere in space where the location is irrelevant, and the name of the planet will shortly be only of historical interest. We see it's a planet where Galactus has arrived and is starting to devour. On the next page, we see Galactus destroy and consume said world, after which he tells his world ship, lay in coordinates for the next jump. The world ship says, "Confirmed, an unknown energy source detected." At this point, Ghost Rider shows up saying, "I'm here to call you to account for your crimes." As Ghost Rider starts circling around Galactus on the Saturn V rocket, he says, "Turn and face me." But Galactus replies, "Trouble another, little insect." Ghost Rider then tells him, "Little insect? Fine then. On your terms," as we see Ghost Rider use his Hellfire to transform him into a massive Ghost Rider the same size as Galactus, saying, "There. Better?" With that, Ghost Rider starts blasting Hellfire at Galactus. Simultaneously, Galactus shoots the power cosmic at Ghost Rider. When the power cosmic and Hellfire collide, it initially causes a stalemate, but the Hellfire overpowers Galactus, sending him flying into his world ship, which is utterly insane. I bet there's a good amount of you who had no idea that Ghost Rider was this strong and that his Hellfire can combat and even overpower the power cosmic. Once Ghost Rider knocks Galactus on his butt, he says, "Do I have your attention now?" Galactus replies, "Yes." The two then start battling, and eventually Ghost Rider grabs Galactus's head and stares into his eyes, saying, "Let your guilt over your crimes condemn you. Face now the lethal fire of the Penance Stare." But as Ghost Rider continues to look into Galactus's eyes, he notices it has no effect on Galactus and says, "No." Galactus then turns his back on Ghost Rider, with Rider saying, "Don't turn your back on me. I'm not finished with you." At this point, the Watcher shows up saying, "I'm afraid you are, Spirit of Vengeance." Ghost Rider turns to him and says, "But the Penance Stare," the Watcher tells him, has no effect because Galactus knows neither guilt nor remorse, nor sorrow for his actions. He feeds because that is his nature, just as it is mine as the Watcher to observe without interfering. Does a shark on your world know guilt for feeding, for simply following its nature? Then neither does. Ghost Rider then interrupts him saying, "Save it. I've heard this from others, the Punisher, Bullseye, Thanos, and I do not accept it. How many worlds have died because of Galactus? Millions? Billions? The penance must be paid. And if the Penance Stare is not sufficient, then though it may take 1,000 years, we will remain here locked in combat until one of us is destroyed. I have no other choice." The Watcher tells him, "You believe you have no choice because you do not know the rest of it." Ghost Rider asks, "The rest of what?" The Watcher tells him, "It is known that there have been many universes before this one was created in what is called the Big Bang, just as it is known that Galactus was once called Galen of Ta, the lone survivor from a universe immediately preceding this one, saved from destruction in a cosmic egg, then revived in this universe with a hunger that could only be appeased by consuming entire worlds. What is not known, because you have not asked, is what happened to all those prior universes, and why. And what is the meaning?" Ghost Rider asks, "The meaning of what?" The Watcher tells him, "Everything. Every prior universe from time immemorial came to an end because they contained the seed of their own destruction, birthed at the moment of their creation, in those who were chosen to survive that destruction. Each of them in a way became the Galactus of their universe, as we see the Galactuses, so to speak, before the one we know." The Watcher goes on to say, "They became known as the Great Destroyers. Stars, planets, and galaxies fell before them, until in the end, after a trillion years, only the Destroyer remained." Ghost Rider then says, "Wait, are you saying that all life from the very beginning to the very end is without meaning? That universe after universe, creation after creation, we have no greater purpose than to feed the beast that will one day devour us? It doesn't make any sense." The Watcher continues, "Does it make sense to plant a field of wheat and not harvest it, to leave it to rot beneath the sun? All things die, all worlds end. If they end in silence and death erases all that they once were, then there can be no greater meaning. But when a destroyer absorbs a planet, more than mere hunger is assuaged. The hunger is simply a means to an end, a way to compel the destroyers to do what they must, to gather the harvest and prepare the way for the birth of the next universe from the ashes of the old. They harvest not just the planet and the lives of those who live there, but also their art, their music, their stories, all the things that gave them purpose and beauty, and the will to fight until the last breath for the right to live, to breathe, to exist. This determination, this will to survive, becomes a force powerful enough to bend creation toward a desire for new life. Until finally, when all has been consumed, leaving only the void, the destroyer reaches critical mass. The dreams, art, and music of a trillion hearts unite within him, ready to be birthed anew. They strive within the destroyer for release, tearing him asunder with their will to live, to once again begin the great journey. That energy hovers in the timeless void, waiting for a single spark to light the fire, a single thought. The purpose of the universe is to understand the purpose of the universe, and then the cycle of creation and destruction, life and death, art and beauty, music and memories, and purpose begins again, shaped by all that came before and fueled by the desire to live once more. As a result, each new universe, each new cycle is stronger, better, and nobler than the one before, closer to perfection. Ghost Rider asks, "And then what? What's the end game?" The Watcher tells him, "Someday, an untold number of universes from now, perfection will finally be achieved, honoring the memory of all who lived and died along the way. Then something amazing will happen, something beyond even the wisest of us to see. And everything, all the struggles, all the pain, the joy, the loss, the dreams, the art, and the beauty, everything will have been worth it. And it will be beautiful." The Watcher asks, "So now that you know the truth, what is your reply? Ghost Rider says, my reply consists of 5 words. The first 3 words are, I don't care. Would you like to know what the other 2 words are? Clearly implying they're F you. He continues, Galactus doesn't get a free pass because of something that might happen 1 trillion years from now. He can be destroyed now. The Watcher tells him, yes, and future universes may not be born as a result. Ghost Rider replies, not my problem. I don't care what happens in 1 trillion years. All I care about is what happens right now, and I'm not done with this or with him. The Watcher says, yes, you are. Ghost Rider tells him, I said, but the Watcher interrupts saying, what you said does not matter. The Watcher then sends Ghost Rider back to Manhattan as Ghost Rider is clearly annoyed, but he turns back into Johnny as the Thing sees him through a restaurant window while having dinner with Alicia. The Thing says, Alicia and I just got seated. You want to join us for dinner? There's a spare chair if you promise not to burn the place down. Johnny thinks for a second and says, sure, why not? When he sits down, Alicia says, this is our favorite dinner spot. The flavors are just exquisite. The Thing says, hey, I gotta say, the live piano is, I ain't even got words for it. Johnny says, it's beautiful, and the Thing tells him, exactly. And as long as there's beauty in the world, there's a reason to keep going, you know? Even for a slob like me. Johnny tells him, you have great inner beauty, Ben. The Thing responds, yeah, that and $5 will get me a coffee. Am I right, Johnny? What's inner beauty worth? To which Johnny replies, everything apparently. And with that, the comic ends as we see the Watcher watching Johnny. This was pretty epic. We got to see a few pages of Ghost Rider and Galactus battling in a fight that could have taken 1,000 years. That's how on par Ghost Rider is with Galactus, and not many people are aware of that. The Spirit of Vengeance is one of the most powerful characters or entities in all of comic books, able to stand up against the Devourer of Worlds. That's supernatural Hellfire, am I right? I got some in my butthole. But we also got to learn a lot about Galactus and the Circle of Life and Death in the Marvel Universe. It's kind of like a more elaborate explanation of Mufasa's Circle of Life speech to Simba. The short of it is, Galactus has to kill so that trillions of years from now, we can take all the art, music, and everything positive from the previous worlds he's devoured, so that the multiverse can eventually birth something that is perfect. But the Ghost Rider's like, yeah, I don't care what happens in the future. I care about the now. It was a really fun read that showed us just how powerful Ghost Rider is, but also dove into the meaning of Galactus. This is something I'd like to break down a little more closer to the Fantastic Four movie, because I feel like there's a lot to take away here from what the Watcher said about the Devourer of Worlds. Anyway, that's just my 2 cents. What did you guys think of this issue? Did you dig it? Let us know in the comments. Other than that, we'll see you next time when we talk about all things comics.